I woke up to the sound of drilling. Not birds, not lawnmowers. Power tools. In my backyard. At 7:18 a.m. At first, I thought it was coming from a neighbor's renovation. Then I heard a voice I recognized. Confident, direct, giving instructions. The HOA president. I walked to my back window and froze. Two contractors were setting fence posts. Inside my yard, not near the boundary, not close, inside. Fresh holes dug roughly 3 feet past the actual property line. Concrete bags stacked nearby, with panels leaning against my maple tree. And she was standing there with a clipboard on my land. I stepped outside. What is this? I asked. She didn't even look surprised. We're correcting the boundary alignment, she said calmly. Boundary alignment. That phrase again. This is my property. She tapped the clipboard. The community developer's original layout shows a slight adjustment. This fence ensures visual consistency. Visual consistency. I looked down. They'd already dug 4 post holes. Concrete had been poured into one. You're trespassing, I said evenly. She finally looked at me. It's HOA approved. That was the moment I realized something important. She believed HOA approval overrode deeded ownership. I pulled up the property survey on my phone, saved as a PDF after closing. Highlighted boundary lines. Exact measurements. According to the county, I said, holding up the screen, this is my land. She didn't step back. She didn't hesitate. You can bring that to the board. The board. As if my deed was up for committee review. One of the contractors paused midday. Ma'am, should we keep going? She nodded. Yes. I looked at the partially set post. Concrete still wet, and something shifted inside me. Not anger, clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a test. She assumed most homeowners wouldn't fight a structure once it was built. Once concrete cures, disputes become complicated, expensive, intimidating. She was betting on inertia. That I complained, but ultimately accepted. I took photos, wide shots, close-ups of tape measures, video of her instructing the crew. I made one final statement. You have 24 hours to stop construction and remove what you've installed. She smiled slightly. Or what? I met her gaze. Or I will. She laughed. Actually laughed. Because in her mind, I had 2 options. Complain to the HOA or hire a lawyer. Both slow, both expensive, both exhausting. She didn't realize there was a third option. And as the first fence panel went up on my side of the line, I already knew exactly what I was going to rent. Tractor. By the time I got back from work that afternoon, the fence was finished. 6-foot cedar panels, concrete cured, posts set deep, and every inch of it standing firmly 3 feet inside my property line. It wasn't sloppy work. That was the problem. It looked permanent, intentional, like it had always belonged there. That's how encroachment works best, when it looks official. I walked the full length of it slowly, measured from the original survey markers I'd installed after closing. Exactly 3 feet in. Not accidental. Not close. Deliberate. I emailed her one more time. Attached. County survey. Marked measurements. Photos of fence placement. Screenshot of her instructing contractors. Subject line. Formal notice of encroachment. Short. Direct. You have 48 hours to remove the fence from my property before I take corrective action. No threats. No emotion. Just documentation. Her reply came that night. The fence is compliant with HOA community layout standards. Removal is unnecessary. Unnecessary. As if ownership were optional. The next morning, I called a licensed surveyor. Not a quick measurement. A full boundary verification. Metal stakes placed. Bright flags installed. Stamped report. Certified. 2 days later, the surveyor stood in my yard with a tripod and transit. He double-checked everything. Measured twice. Then looked at me. It's 3 feet inside your line. Clear. Official. Undeniable. I requested a signed copy immediately. Because here's what people like her don't expect. Paperwork beats confidence. That evening, I walked to her door, handed her the certified survey. She scanned it quickly, expression tightening. This doesn't align with the HOA's master map. I nodded. It aligns with the county. Silence. The fence stays, she said finally. That was the moment the decision crystallized. She wasn't confused. She wasn't mistaken. She was committed. And once someone commits to overreach, they rarely reverse without consequence. So I stopped arguing, stopped emailing, stopped explaining. Instead, I called the local equipment rental company. Do you have a mid-sized bulldozer available this weekend? The man on the phone asked, residential project? Yes.
Woke up to the
Demolition.
sound of
I looked out my
drilling.
back window at the fence casting a shadow across my grass. Yes.
Lawnmowers.
He quoted the rate.
Power
Delivery
tools
fee included.
in my
Insurance
backyard.
rider required. I agreed.
At
Scheduled for Saturday morning. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell neighbors. Didn't threaten her again.
It was coming
because
from
warnings
a
had already been
neighbor's
given.
renovation.
Survey verified. Deadline expired.
Then I heard
At this
a
point,
voice
it wasn't
I
escalation.
recognized.
It was enforcement.
Confident,
Friday night, she hosted a small gathering in her
giving
backyard. Guests admired the new privacy fence.
The HOA
I overheard someone
president.
say, "Looks great."
I
almost
walked
smiled
to my back
because concrete
window
feels permanent
and
until
froze.
something heavier shows up.
Two
Saturday morning at
contractors were
8:03
setting
a.m.,
fence
a flatbed
posts.
truck rolled down the street.
Inside
Bright yellow
my
machine strapped to the
yard,
back.
not
Hydraulic
near
arms.
the boundary,
Steel blade. Slow.
not close,
Unmistakable.
inside.
The driver backed it into my
Thresholds
driveway,
dug
unloaded it
roughly
carefully.
3
Neighbors
feet
began
past
stepping
the
outside.
actual
Phones already in
property
hand.
line.
She emerged from her house mid-coffee sip.
Concrete bags
Confused,
stacked
then
nearby.
alarmed. "What are you doing?" she demanded.
Panels
I
leaning
climbed into the operator's
against
seat,
my maple
calm,
tree.
measured, and said the only
And
thing left
she
to
was
say.
standing
Correcting the
there
boundary
with
alignment.
a clipboard.
The engine roared
On
louder
my
than I
land.
expected.
I
Deep,
stepped
mechanical,
outside.
final.
What is
Every head on the
this?
street turned.
I
She stormed
asked.
across her yard, still
She
holding her
didn't
coffee mug.
even look
"You can't touch that," she
surprised.
shouted.
We're
I shut the engine down for a
correcting the
moment.
boundary
According to the certified
alignment.
survey, I
She
said calmly, holding up the
calmly,
stamped document.
"Boundary
"This fence is on my
alignment."
land.
That
That's
phrase
HOA property,"
again.
she snapped.
This
"No,"
is my property.
I replied evenly. "It's
She
mine."
tapped the
A small
clipboard.
crowd had already formed.
The
Weekends in
community
suburban neighborhoods don't
developer's
offer much entertainment.
original
A
layout
bulldozer pointed
shows
at a
a
6-foot
slight
cedar fence.
adjustment.
That's front row material.
This
She pulled out her
fence
phone.
ensures
"I'm calling the
visual
police." "Please do," I said. And I meant
Visual
it. Because here's the difference
consistency.
between destruction and
I
removal.
looked down.
One is illegal.
They'd
The other is
already
reclaiming
dug
property
for
placed without
post
permission.
holes.
The officers arrived within 15
Concrete
minutes.
had
2
been
patrol
poured
cars.
into
They
one.
walked the line carefully.
You're
Survey flags still
trespassing,
visible.
I
Metal
said
stakes clearly marking the
evenly.
boundary.
She
I handed
finally
them
looked
the
at
certified
me.
survey,
It's
the formal notice
HOA
email, the time-stamped
approved.
warning,
That
photos
was
of construction.
The moment
One officer
I
asked her,
realized
"Did you have written permission to build on this side of the line?"
important.
She hesitated.
believed
"It's HOA approved." That wasn't my question. Silence. Because HOA approval doesn't override recorded deeds. The second officer looked at me. "As long as you're removing material from your property only, this is a civil matter." She stared at them in disbelief. "You're not stopping him?" "Ma'am, this appears to be a documented encroachment." That was it. The moment her authority evaporated. No dramatic arrest. No shouting. Just legal reality settling in. The officers stepped back, advised everyone to remain calm, and left. I climbed back into the bulldozer. This time I didn't pause. The blade pressed against the first fence panel. Wood creaked. Nails strained. For a split second, it held. Then the post cracked at the concrete base. The entire section tipped forward onto my side of the yard. Gasps from the crowd. Someone whispered,
"Man,
"Oh my God."
should we keep
I reversed slowly,
going?"
moved
She
to the next
nodded.
panel. She stood frozen,
Yes,
jaw
I
tight.
looked
"This
at
is
the
vandalism," she yelled.
partially set
"No."
post.
I called back over the engine
Concrete
noise. "It's
still
removal."
wet and
Panel after
something
panel gave way.
shifted inside
Concrete posts
me.
snapped at ground level.
Not
Cedar
anger,
boards splintered.
clarity.
Within minutes, the permanent
This
fence looked like a
wasn't
stack
a
of expensive lumber.
misunderstanding.
I was careful,
It was a
deliberate.
test.
The blade never
She
crossed the surveyed
assumed
line.
Most
Not an inch.
homeowners
When the final section
wouldn't
fell,
fight a
the yard looked
structure
raw again.
Once it was
Open.
built.
Correct. 3 feet
Once
reclaimed.
concrete
I shut the engine off.
cures,
Silence flooded the
disputes
street.
become
The machine ticked as it cooled.
complicated,
She looked at the debris,
expensive,
then at the neighbors,
intimidating.
then at me.
She was
"This
betting
isn't over,"
on
she said
inertia.
quietly. I stepped down from the
That
cab.
I'd
It was over when you
complain,
ignored the
but
survey.
ultimately
What she didn't realize yet,
accept
the
it.
fence wasn't the most expensive part of this
took
decision.
photos,
Because once you
wide
lose publicly,
shots,
you don't just lose lumber.
close-ups
You
of
lose
tape
credibility.
measures,
And in an HOA-controlled neighborhood,
video
that's
of
harder
her
to rebuild than
instructing
any
the
fence.
crew.
By Monday
I
morning,
made
the story
one
had spread
final
beyond our street.
statement.
Not
You
because
have
I posted it,
24
but because
hours
someone
to
else did.
stop
A 30-second clip of the bulldozer
construction
pushing
and
over the
remove
first
what
fence
you've
panel had made its
installed.
way onto the neighborhood
She
Facebook group.
smiled
Caption:
slightly.
HOA
Or
President versus
what?
Bulldozer flushed face.
I met her
It didn't take long for
gaze.
opinions to divide.
Or
Some called it
I
extreme.
will.
Others called
She
it justified.
laughed,
But almost everyone
actually
agreed on one
laughed.
thing. The survey stakes
Because
were clearly
in
on my
her
side,
mind,
which made the
I
footage
had
uncomfortable
two
for her.
options.
That afternoon,
Complain
I
to
received a
the
certified letter from the HOA's legal counsel.
or hire
Subject:
a lawyer.
Notice of property damage
Both
and unauthorized
slow,
demolition.
both
The irony was
expensive.
impressive.
I
The letter
woke
claimed
up to the
destruction
sound
of community
drilling.
improvement, financial damages,
Not birds,
violation of
not
HOA standards.
lawnmowers,
It demanded reimbursement
power
for fence
tools
construction
in
costs.
my
I
backyard.
forwarded it directly to my attorney.
At
Attached:
7:18
certified boundary survey,
a.m.
police
at
incident number,
first,
formal
I
notice of
thought
encroachment,
it was coming
timestamp
from
documentation.
A neighbor's
My attorney
renovation.
responded within hours. Short,
Then I
precise,
heard a voice
cold.
I
The
recognized.
fence was constructed without permission on deeded
Confident,
private property.
direct,
Removal was lawful.
giving
Any further claims may
instructions.
constitute harassment. He
The
also included a line
HOA
that changed the temperature.
president.
If this
I
matter
walked
proceeds,
to my
we will
back
pursue recovery of survey
window
costs,
and
equipment rental,
froze.
and legal fees.
Two
That's when it shifted from
contractors
neighborhood
were
drama to
setting
financial
fence
risk.
posts.
Because here's the part she hadn't considered.
Inside my
HOA
yard,
lawsuits aren't personal.
not
They're
near
funded
the
by the
boundary,
community, meaning if she
not
pushed it further,
close
she'd be risking board
inside.
approval to sue a homeowner over a fence
Thresholds
built
dug
illegally.
roughly
At the next
3
HOA
feet
board meeting,
past
attendance
the
doubled.
actual
Homeowners asked
property
pointed
line.
questions. Was there a survey before construction?
Concrete
Was permission
bags
obtained?
stacked nearby.
Why are HOA
Would
funds involved in a
panels
boundary
leaning
dispute? She tried to
against
frame
my
it as
maple
a
tree?
misunderstanding. But
And
misunderstandings
she was
don't come with
standing
certified
there
county
with a
documents.
clipboard
And they definitely don't survive
on
video
my
evidence.
land.
3 days
I
later,
stepped
another letter
outside.
arrived. This
What
one
is
shorter.
this?
The HOA
I
would not be
asked.
pursuing further action.
She
No apology,
didn't even
just
look
matter
surprised.
closed. But something had
We're
changed.
correcting
Neighbors
the
began quietly
boundary
checking their own property
alignment.
lines.
She
A few
said
requested official
calmly,
surveys. One even
"Boundary
discovered his landscaping
alignment."
encroached
That
slightly onto the
phrase
common area
again.
and corrected
This
it
is
immediately.
my
Because
property.
once someone challenges
She
overreach
tapped the
successfully,
clipboard.
others gain courage.
The
She stopped walking the
community
neighborhood with the same
developer's
authority. Board meetings grew
layout
procedural,
chose
less
a
aggressive,
slight
more cautious.
adjustment.
The word alignment
This
was never
fence
used again.
ensures
And the space where the
visual
fence once stood,
consistency.
clean,
Visual
undeniable.
consistency.
3 feet doesn't sound like much.
I
until
looked
someone
down,
tries to take it.
they'd
She thought a
already
finished
dug
fence
for
would force
post
acceptance.
holes.
That concrete meant permanence.
Concrete
But
had been
permanence only
poured
exists when
into
it's
one.
legal. Otherwise,
You're
it's just temporary when
trespassing,
waiting for
I
heavier
said
machinery.
evenly.
And while the bulldozer
She
made the loudest
finally
statement,
looked at
the survey
me.
made the strongest
It's
one.
HOA
Because power isn't about who builds
approved.
first. It's
That
about who
was
owns the ground beneath
moment
it.
I
A week after the dust
realized
settled, the
something
debris was gone.
important.
The broken fence panels
She
had been stacked
believed
neatly at the edge of her
HOA
driveway,
approval
on her side of the
over
actual property line.
deeded
I didn't dump
ownership.
them there. I simply moved them off my land. Ownership works both ways. The trench marks from the bulldozer had already been graded smooth. Fresh topsoil spread, seed laid, watered evenly. Within days, green began pushing through again. It looked like nothing had happened, except everyone knew something had. At the next HOA meeting, she didn't sit at the head of the table. Another board member did. The announcement was brief. She's stepping back from leadership due to personal commitments. No mention of fences. No mention of surveys. No mention of heavy equipment. But the room felt different. Less tense. More balanced. Because here's what really changed. The illusion that HOA authority overrides ownership. It doesn't. It never did. It just depends on who's willing to test it. A few neighbors approached me afterward, quietly, asking how I verified the boundary, how much surveys cost, what their rights were if something similar happened. That's the part she didn't anticipate. It wasn't about one fence. It was about precedent. When someone pushes 3 feet once and gets away with it, it becomes easier to push again. But when it's pushed back, publicly, legally, decisively, the line becomes visible. Permanent. She never apologized, but she avoided eye contact after that. Not out of anger, out of awareness. Because the story of the fence didn't end with wood and concrete. It ended with credibility, and credibility, once cracked, doesn't reset with a committee vote. As for me, I installed small metal boundary markers flush with the ground along the survey line. Subtle, legal, unmistakable, no signs, no warnings. No theatrics, just clarity. She built a fence assuming permanence would force compliance. Instead, she learned something simple. You can build on someone else's land. You just can't keep it there. And if you mistake confidence for ownership, eventually something heavier shows up. Tractor.